You know, we all spend our lives chasing things we think will make us happy. You know the list: the better job, the bigger house, the perfect relationship. But what if we're chasing the wrong things entirely? In this explainer, we're going to dig into a really powerful idea that just flips the whole script on happiness. It's a state of optimal experience called flow.
At some point, I think this question hits almost all of us. You look up from the daily grind, you look around and you think, is this it? We've checked all the boxes society gave us, right? School, career, family, all while waiting for that promised feeling that we finally arrived. But when it doesn't show up, it's so easy to feel like you missed a page in the manual somewhere.
And here's the crazy part, the big paradox. If you look at it objectively, our lives are better than they have ever been. I mean, we live with luxuries and technologies that emperors of the past could only dream about. And yet, the data tells a completely different story. We're seeing rising anxiety, more social distress. The numbers don't lie. It really seems like our material wealth has skyrocketed, but our actual sense of well-being has been left in the dust.
Okay, so if the world outside us is better than ever, but we feel worse, what gives? Where's the problem? Well, decades of research point to a pretty surprising culprit: our own consciousness. It's been hijacked.
And there's a name for this hijacked state. Psychologists call it psychic entropy. Just think of it like mental static. The mind's natural gravity pulling it toward chaos. When our attention isn't focused on something, it just defaults to worry, to anxiety, to random negative thoughts. And this mental noise doesn't just feel bad, it actively stops us from focusing and getting anything meaningful done.
We feel this inner chaos because our consciousness is stuck in this constant, brutal tug-of-war. On one side, you've got your genes, your biological programming, right? That primal urge for pleasure, food, survival. But on the other side, you've got society with all its rules, training you to chase external stuff, money, status, getting that like. We end up feeling like puppets, just being pulled by strings we can't even really see.
And man, Ralph Waldo Emerson just nailed it with this quote. It perfectly captures the trap of modern life. We're always putting off our happiness. You know the drill. I'll be happy when I get that promotion, when I finally buy the house. We spend so much time preparing for a happy life that we completely forget to actually live one.
So how do we get out of this trap? How do we stop feeling like puppets? Well, the solution isn't to try and fight these giant forces. It's to find a state of mind that just makes them irrelevant. It's a way to turn all that inner chaos into focused, blissful order. And it's called flow.
You know this feeling. I guarantee you felt it. You're so absorbed in what you're doing that it's like the rest of the world just fades away. You're in the zone. Time either speeds up or slows down, your focus is absolute, and every single move you make feels effortless and correct. That's flow. And here's the key. The reward isn't some trophy at the end. The activity itself becomes the reward.
Now, flow isn't some random magical feeling. It actually has a recipe, a formula you can follow. First, it starts with a task that's challenging but not so hard that it's impossible. It has to be perfectly matched to your skill level. Then you add in super clear goals and immediate feedback. And when you mix all that together, you create the perfect conditions for that deep concentration, that feeling of total control, and that amazing moment where your ego, with all its worries and anxieties, just vanishes.
This all leads to a really surprising, kind of counterintuitive insight. We usually split our lives into two buckets, work and play, right? And we assume all the good stuff, the enjoyment, only happens during play. But the research shows the opposite is often true. I mean, think about it. Your job often has clear goals, you get feedback right away, and there are defined challenges. Work is practically designed to create flow.
And the data on this is just stunning. In these huge studies, people reported being in a state of flow a whopping 54% of the time they were at work. And during their leisure time, their fun time, only 18%. Think about that. Most of our free time is actually spent in a state of apathy, or mindlessly watching TV or scrolling social media, using low skills on low challenge tasks. And it just leaves us feeling bored and empty.
Okay, so work is a natural flow generator. Got it. But we can't be on the clock 24/7. So the really big question is,
How do we start intentionally building these kinds of experiences into the rest of our lives?
The beautiful thing about flow is that it's democratic. It's for everybody. It's not just for elite athletes or famous artists. As you can see right here, it is literally everywhere. It's accessible to a surgeon lost in a complex operation, a dancer who becomes one with the music, a farmer just tending to their orchard, a welder turning their job into a craft, anyone who can find that perfect sweet spot where challenge meets skill.
So if we want to engineer more flow into our lives, we first have to get our heads around this crucial difference. Pleasure is not the same thing as enjoyment. Not even close. See, pleasure is passive. It's kicking back on the couch, eating a nice meal. It feels good. It restores a sense of balance, but it doesn't help you grow. Enjoyment, on the other hand, is active. It takes effort. It requires skill and focus. And it's what you feel after you've stretched yourself and accomplished something new.
This means we can literally transform boring, passive activities into sources of active enjoyment. This is the playbook. So don't just let music be background noise. Try actively listening to it. Set aside time. Focus on the different instruments. Don't just feed your face. Challenge yourself to learn a new style of cooking. Turn a simple chat from just passing along data to a real, playful exploration of ideas. This is the practical secret to building a life filled with flow.
Now, once you get good at creating flow in all these different parts of your life, you start moving toward this ultimate goal. Psychologists call it developing an autotelic personality. Autotelic literally means self-goal. So an autotelic person doesn't need external rewards. They don't need the money or the status or the praise to feel motivated. For them, the reward is the activity. They're basically masters at creating their own purpose and finding deep enjoyment in the simple process of living itself. There's this amazing story from the research about a guy named Joe. Now, Joe is a welder in a factory, a really repetitive job. He could have been totally miserable, but instead he turned his job into a game, constantly challenging himself to make the perfect weld to improve his craft. And this ability to create flow didn't stop when he clocked out. At home, he built this incredible, intricate rock garden. He even designed and built his own sprinkler system just so it would create a dozen little rainbows in his yard. Joe didn't need a fancy title. He created his own meaning, his own complexity, his own rainbows.
And that really brings us to the heart of it, doesn't it? The secret to a good life isn't about chasing external symbols. More money, more status, more stuff. It's about taking direct, hands-on control over the quality of your own moment-to-moment experience. Happiness isn't some prize you win at the end of the game. It's a skill you practice every single day.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. We are all conditioned from birth to chase happiness as if it's the ultimate destination. But what if that's aiming at the wrong target? What if the real point of life isn't to be happy, but just to be completely and utterly absorbed in whatever it is you're doing? So absorbed that happiness just becomes the natural, inevitable side effect of a life well lived.